Good evening, well, good morning still, and welcome today for the Executive Candidates Forum. My name is Taylor Ivney, and I'm the MUNSU Chief Returning Officer. I'll be moderating today's forum. The forum today is a chance to hear from the candidates for the executive positions with the MUN Students Union. This is not a debate, but rather a forum where each candidate will answer the question posed. They are not to address the responses of other candidates. There will be 2 minutes given to each candidate to provide a closing statement at the end. We will begin with an introduction from each candidate, where they will tell a bit about themselves.
So my name is Drake Holtonat. I'm hoping to run for the Executive Director of Advocacy. I'm in my third year at university studying both a double major in Law and Society and Sociology. From this, I'm basically hoping to bring in some fresh ideas and some new blood into this union again, and hopefully to revitalize the student support in the union. And yeah, that's basically the end of it right there.
So I'm Allison. I'm a candidate for the Executive Director of Campaigns position. I do hope to get elected, as I do have some really good ideas to improve how MUNSU as a whole works, as I will never stop believing that the student body does deserve better than whatever they are receiving.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. My name is Hannah McCowie and I am running for Executive Director of External Affairs. I am a second year studying political science and anthropology. And I have an entire binder full of ideas that I want to bring to MUNSU. And yeah, so I'm hoping that everyone who wants to create a diverse and, passionate board will vote for me. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I recognize most of you in the audience, but I'll say my name and everything just for whoever doesn't know me, whoever is watching on Facebook Live. I hope there's lots of people. My name's Liam O'Neill. I'm a political science student in my third year now. I am running for Executive Director of Finance and Services. And that means I would be responsible largely for helping spend the money that the union spends in terms of budgeting and all that area of stuff, running the services, the breezeway, the attic, the insurance, and various other things that the union would do. I am running because for the last the almost 3 years that I've been here, I can see how many great people are involved in the Students' Union, but I also see how much more work there is to do, how many people at MUN everyone has complaints. Everyone has stuff that they want addressed, and I want to make that happen. I want people to vote. I want more than 10% of people to vote. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kayla McKinnon, and I'm a fifth year at MUN, third year nursing student, and I'm running for the Executive Director of Student Life. I was a first year society representative. I was vice president and president, and my campaign so far has been focusing around what the voters want to see next year. So hopefully I have your vote on the 13th and 14th.
Hi, folks. My name is Bailey Howard. I am in my final year of studies, so I'm doing a double major in Communication Studies and English. I'm doing a diploma in Performance and Communications Media and a certificate in Film Studies. I'm running for the position of External Affairs Communications and Research. The reason I wanted to run for this position is I think it has a lot to do with what I am studying and what I'm passionate about, which is communications, promotion, and working to better the policies of the Students' Union. This past year as a part of the Students' Union, I got to plan the events and work with a lot of different students on campus in the student groups. I think that a big part of what I want to do is improving some of our policies and getting students feedback on what they want to see our policies to be and what they want the stances of their students union to be, because I think a lot of that is outdated. So if you want to be a part of helping have your voice heard in the updating of those policies and the promotion of your students union, then please vote for me.
How you doing? I'm Keegan Brophy. I'm a Term 5 mechanical engineering student. Frankly, I found the budget for the past couple of years to be less than optimal. Quite frankly, many myself and other STEM students have found the allocation of funds to be not in our best interests. So last year I became the engineering representative to change this. I found out that that was not quite enough to implement all the changes I had desired. So I am running for the executive of finances in order to fully change and achieve a more balanced and more student-driven budget. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Precious Fam Lucy. I am running for Executive Director of Student Life. So I'm running based on bringing international students and local students together, because I am an international student, but I also went to high school here, and I noticed there's a big awkwardness between international and local students. So one thing I really want to do is bring both together and have one big community. Thank you very much. Hope you vote for me.
Thanks very much, everyone. My name is John Godfrey, and I am presently a biology major student. I have had the privilege of being on the Student Union Board of Directors already as a director at large, and anticipate that I'm going to be able to use so many of the things that I've been able to see from that experience to bring together a lot more of the different groups of our population here, different groups of the students here. I want to have better representation for international students, better support for students in general in their dealings with university and navigation of the system, the bureaucracy of their careers here on campus. I believe the only way we're going to do this is for the student union to be a lot more transparent, to be a lot more interactive and a lot more responsible to the student body, and I look forward to not only endorsing that but insisting upon it as the Director of Advocacy. I want to be able to help students on an individual and community basis to be able to work towards solidifying their successes in Memorial.
Hey everybody, my name is Nancy Dillon. I'm running for Executive Director of Campaigns. I'm running for that position because I believe in supporting students to ensure that there is diversity and collaboration when discussing, negotiating, or promoting what will make university the campus that you hope for. As a second-year Bachelor of Social Work student at Memorial, I've devoted my time both privately and professionally to attaining skills that allow for influential systemic change of how people are unfairly treated and to build a more supportive, happy, and thriving environment for students. I'm ready to engage with students to develop fresh ideas and campaigns that can echo their voice and create healthy, vibrant, cohesive community here at university. I stand up to any separation or divide of our student community, and I seek solutions to ensure that students at Memorial have the support that they deserve, and those supports are reflected in my actions and functions as your MUNSU Executive Director of Campaigns. That being said, I'm actively seeking out the information of all students and don't pretend to know that I know exactly what those concerns are and want to be very visible.
It's been somewhere between 2008 and 2010 since MUNSU has even updated their election rules, and various chief returning officers have recommended changes, and then the board ignored them. So I want to know what, if anything, would you do to actually change the way that MUNSU conducts elections, everything from promotion to the actual rules governing such as minimum, maximum campaign lengths. Thank you.
Yeah, you've got 2 minutes.
First, I'd like to say that's a great question, and it's something that I've been kind of working on right now. So as everyone knows, we've only had about a week starting from last Friday to actually start campaigning. And it's really hard and really stressful. And that's on me, a student who's currently just a part-time student. Now, imagine if you are someone who has a physical disability, if you're dealing with chronic pain, if you have mental illness, or just have a higher work or course load like many science students. How can you effectively run your campaign? How can you poster all of campus? How can you get out and engage with students, actually get your message across to actually have that face-to-face interaction, which is much more important than social media, if you only have so much time and professors are quite strict about classes and you have due dates and you have assignments and everything. So I think that is what I would change when it comes to elections policy and increasing accessibility during our campaigns.
So online for my Facebook promotions and such, I posted a full outline of my platform, which is about 10 different pages of the different things that I want to do and the policies I want to update, and a big part of that was some of the changes to the policies throughout all of the policies the policies for the campaigns and the campaigns regulations. Being someone who ran last year and again this year, there are some things that definitely need to be more streamlined, such as I guess the outlines for what you are allowed to do and aren't allowed to do on campus, and making sure that that is understood by all candidates, and making sure that all of that is accessible towards all candidates. Another big thing is throughout the campaign's regulations is that the pronouns all say he/she. I think a big part of that to make it accessible is to make sure that we're using proper pronouns such as they that represent all students, whether they're male, female, non-binary students. Where they are so outdated, there is very few rules on what you can and can't do on social media. So making sure, as that is such a big platform in society today, in the community today, and such a big way that people are able to reach out to other students, that they have regulations for how that can be done and how that can be done properly. Making sure that maybe there's better outlines for next year for where, say, bulletin boards are on campus and where different things can be accessed on campus, so that students aren't just going around and trying to find those locations themselves, but then they know where they are and where the access points are, and making sure there's accessible paths. And maybe that does mean having certain locations that students, if those areas aren't accessible, to make sure that those are places that, if it's not accessible for all students, that shouldn't be places where people can campaign on campus. Thanks.
So my question is directed towards the candidates who are running for Director of Student Life. It was mentioned that there was a thing about bridging the gap between residence life and campus life. It was mentioned on one of the platforms. And I believe it was you, Kayla, that mentioned that. So my question to those hopefuls for student life: if elected, what will you do to bridge the gap between residence life and campus life? And what do you think is missing, from residence life, campus life, as creating that gap? Thank you.
So to bridge the gap between residence and campus life is one of the important issues. Okay, so one big part of bridging that is, I believe, is promotion of the event. If we can promote it in the right way, because one thing I always find is people do not have enough information about we don't have enough information. So if we can promote it the right way, then I believe that we'll be able to bridge it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I actually lived in res for 3 years, and for the first 2, I was an undeclared student, so I found it really hard to get involved with societies and stuff because there wasn't really one for me. So one of my things is I want to promote in residence the 200+ ratified clubs and societies that MUNSU does have. And I was the Winter Carnival coordinator this year with MUNSU, and I found that it was really hard to get the societies involved, and one of the things that was mentioned to me by some resident students is when they were trying to reach out to the societies, the emails weren't updated, or for whatever reason, there wasn't a reply. So what I think should be done is going to those societies, putting up a poster or something in the society rooms, kind of advertising Winter Carnival, and also somebody suggested to me having similar to a dance in the square, but for all students, not just resident students. I think is a pretty fantastic idea, and hopefully we can implement that next year. Anyway, thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Matthew Gilbert, senior undergrad, just had preferred to finishing my degree. And my question is directed towards the candidates for finance and services. Despite popular belief, a budget should not dictate how an organization spends its money. Instead, the priorities of the organization should. And the budget should then reflect those priorities. This is a quote from the current MUNSU website. What is your opinion on the organization's statement and stance on how student funds should be allocated? And do you agree with these current views?
Well, I think certainly the budget is, it shouldn't be a unbreakable, a definite statement. We should follow it as much as we can. What it should be is a goal. Obviously, sometimes we're going to have expenditures that we don't anticipate, and that might change the budget at the end of the day. But and so maybe it shouldn't. Like they said, it shouldn't dictate, but it certainly should be made to be a good guide to try and spend the money in the right places. We should, at the beginning of the year when we're planning where we're going to spend our money, we should sit down and think about where are all the places we're going to need to spend money, and we should try and have as good an estimate as we can. But if there are scenarios that pop up where well, okay, yeah, we realize it's going to be a good idea to spend money here, and we didn't anticipate that when we made the budget. Well, then maybe that's appropriate to change. But I think ultimately we just need to do a good job of planning, and at the beginning of the year when we're deciding how we're going to spend our money everywhere. Is that a sufficient answer?
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for the question. As it currently sits, I don't like the way the phrase is written. It's very much circular logic, saying we need to budget out, then we need to prioritize, then we need to rebudget based on that prioritization. The way the budgets are done is at the end of the year, the current plan for next year is set up and handed out to the next finance executive coming in. And that plan is based on what was desired. So if there was a lot of grants given last year, we would increase the allocation to grants and decrease that in areas like, say, if the breezeway had just been remodeled, we do not need to keep the higher renovations, what actually is called in the budget, the high renovations clause. We need to drop that down. We can move money from there towards campaigns to meet last year's surge of demands. Normally in a finance, in a budget, you want to over-categorize everything just a little bit, such that if there is a surge or there's a drop, you can move the money from those areas, or if just a surge, you have the money to keep. It will not overdo your budget, right? And you're still able to operate as normal. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
I'll pose a question to the candidates for director of campaigns. Student space on campus has been an ongoing issue. I'd just like to know if you have any ideas for the creation of new student spaces, or ways that you would maintain current student spaces, any changes that you might make. How do we ensure that students have places of social interaction on campus?
So in regards to student spaces, like student groups, that is dealt with by Student Life, although our cafe concerts and all of our events that we do host, I do believe that we can make them, we can work with more students, clubs, and societies to make our events more diverse, make them more inclusive, more welcoming, and make them more riveting so that more students want to come out. They do have the opportunity to meet with other students, make new friends, as it is an issue that a lot of people that just come to the campus, go to school, and go home, and then they're left without that social interaction. I do believe that with more advertising and more closely working with those who would be greater involved in the campaigns that we do promote would increase our success in seeing people come out and getting to know each other. Great question, though, by the way. Thank you.
Love the question. Very excited to answer that question, because I think that one of the things that we can address through those spaces is also the issue of mental health on campus. So I would be looking for more safe spaces and inclusive spaces where mental health is being addressed, whether that's a napping station with weighted blankets, or whether we're talking about diversity in the groups at Memorial, such as our international or our Indigenous students. I know that Aboriginal House has been something that's been on the books now for 4 years. I'd really like to see that move forward. And I'd like to have more places outside of the UC that still represent community. I feel like a lot of places on campus are very disconnected, and I feel like the isolation between different places on campus can really contribute to poor mental health. So in continuing with unity and community, I would like to see some more friendly, accessible spaces and resources distributed accordingly to those spaces. But definitely a napping center, perhaps over at the university's library.
I'm Curtis May. I'm a first-year commerce student. My question is for Director of Finance and Services to candidates. Just looking at the MUNSU budget here, it's been consistent that both the Breezeway and the Attic have posted consistent deficits year after year. I was wondering if any of you have a plan to deliver these services back into surplus.
So one thing I actually found out was that the Breezeway and the Attic aren't supposed to make money. That was one of my mistakes I made, and it's one of the reasons why I ran for engineering representative for my first session at MUNSU. The money collected by them always turns out to be a deficit because it's immediately moved from the Attic in towards campaigns, in towards posters, in towards every other non-money-making venue that MUNSU has. So while you see that there is a profit of revenue, there is always going to be a loss in sales, because that's what MUNSU is supposed to do. It's supposed to not make profit. They're not allowed to make a profit, right? So it's not really technically an issue. I know it really looks bad on a budget, and of course I've been there. I've always said, why is this not losing money? We're just making returning millions of dollars hand over fist here, and it's going right away. It's technically supposed to do that, but the money's not being lost directly for poor management. It's just being removed from the income source to the rest of MUNSU.
Basically, I'll put it this way. Obviously, the Breezeway does make, there is an income
One of the things I think the Breezeway needs to work at is having more events and getting more people in there. Like, I mean, certainly it should be a fairly good income source for the university. I mean, I know my aunt was on MUNSU maybe 3 decades ago, and at that time it brought in around $5 million a year. They helped build the daycare center over there. I think they helped build this building, although that might have been later. So absolutely, it can be a wonderful source of power for the union. And I think the biggest thing is we just need to get more people in there. There's various things we can do with the space to make it better. But on the weekends, on Fridays, there should almost always be events going on, like there is today. And I think that's something I really want to help make happen. I think if you want to ask me questions at a later point, I think I have a lot of good ideas for the Breezeway in terms of making it the center of student life again, or at least making it a far bigger part of the university than it currently is. Thank you.
I do have some questions ready to propose to our candidates, our executives behind us. I will start with advocacy. The Director of Advocacy aids members navigating the regulations of Memorial University, Student Aid, the Residential Tendencies Act, and coordinates MUNSU's legal aid service. What is your experience in these areas, and what steps will you take to ensure the greatest service to our members?
Thanks very much. My experience is almost entirely with working face-to-face with students already as a director at large, and a great deal of the work and successes that have come out of that have been from both the face-to-face interaction and also the follow-through and then the communication that is necessary to be able to bring what is done and what ought to be done back to students as well. A lot of the successes that we're going to see this coming year, if I am Director of Advocacy, are going to be based in the empowerment of students individually and in communities where they identify, and going to be able to work to solidify their place, their navigation through this place as a bureaucracy of a Memorial University. It is essential that people's voices be brought to both to MUNSU and then are amplified by MUNSU in order to be able to reach the administration of this university. And that's what I feel is going to be probably the greatest strength of me in the position. Thanks very kindly.
In regards to the legal aid, I've actually have various relatives in the legal backgrounds in that, and they've been able to kind of help guide myself through some of the actions in that with my concerns regarding MUNSU and just in regards to Memorial University as a whole. I've had issues with my profs before. Some of the issues being I have not gotten along with the prof, or the prof has not been able to provide adequate information to all students in a timely manner. And from that, I've been able to take and find out the legal ways on how we are able to hold profs accountable. In regards to the housing concerns that we raise, a lot of the students in housing aren't really being heard at the way they should be, and their rights as students are not being addressed to the extent that we should be doing it. And I find that the union is accountable for this, and I would be striving to further address these concerns by actually partaking in little miniature events where I can actually go in and sit down with the houses and address individual concerns, where they would like to see improvements made regarding to their housing concerns, as each house is different. The academic regulations in that many students do not know their rights there, as, like I mentioned previously, students are allowed to address any concerns they have with profs and that, or ask for any kind of extensions they need. They have to have a timely reason, and should the prof deny a reasonable manner, that is not okay with them, and it violates their rights as students within the union. And basically it just boils down to the respect that we have, and should we respect the students, we should be treating them as we would like to be treated ourselves, and as MUN expects us to treat them, we should have that back on to our students.
I will move to a question for External Affairs. The Director of External Affairs, Communications and Research is the official spokesperson of MUNSU. What is your experience with soliciting and conducting media?
So as I mentioned, I'm doing a double major in a diploma and a certificate all revolving around communication studies. I'm really passionate about communications and that field of work and representing the Students' Union. So for some of my past experience, I have, over the past year, gotten some experience doing some media relations for the Students' Union, talking about some of the different campaigns and actions we've been doing, as well as talking about some of the different upcoming events we've had that I've had the opportunity to plan. As well, in the past, I spent a summer working with Oz FM on their summer cruiser team, so I got to speak on the radio over the weekends and talk about the different events that we were doing and the different locations we were at, and doing outreach and being part of the community in that sense. I also was a news reader and writer at CHMR for a couple of semesters, where I got to go on the air and learn about the communications on that side and talk about the news and things that are going on in the community. As well, throughout, I'm on the board of directors for a program in Newfoundland called Allied Youth, which is a community-led youth organization, which I've done some media work and relations for, as well as I currently sit on the board as the secretary for their board of directors. And as well, throughout high school, I was in almost every possible group that you could have in high school. And I was actually the spokesperson for our PINK committee, which was the anti-bullying committee. So I got to do the promotions and the media relations for the different initiatives we had for the campaign called Not Myself Today campaign, as well as some other mental health and anti-bullying campaigns, and as well as the spokesperson actually at my high school for our first aid response team, which was the first one in the province and one of the first 2 or 3 that are in the country. So I got to be the spokesperson for that and do the media relations and speak to folks about what it was that we were doing there and as part of the community. Thank you.
Hi. So during my entire high school career, I've always been involved with student groups, like student leadership groups, with social justice leagues as well. And during that time, I was involved with managing the Facebook groups, managing the Facebook accounts, posting events, tabling for events, and also I am part of CHMR right now. I am a co-host on 2 shows, so I have lots of experience every week, just talking to the people around campus and, even the community at large. During my year on MUNSU, I've been in communications with the media for certain events. Last year in May, I was on TV during a protest. I was being interviewed by, various news organizations, and I think I did well. And right now, I am actually the VP External of MUN Debate Society, so I manage a Twitter account. I poster, I table for our society, I help communicate, and I engage with, trying to get more people to join it. So I do have a little bit of experience with that right now, and yeah. Thank you.
The provincial government has been slashing funds to post-secondary education, including massive cuts to Memorial. The federal government has yet to expand its role in funding post-secondary. What is your vision to increase quality and accessibility at Memorial University?
I think one of the most important roles as an executive director of campaigns is your ability to negotiate the needs and demands of students, and you need to be able to exercise that same ability in negotiation that I mentioned earlier at a level when you're talking with government officials and trying to organize the student body around campaigns that mean something to them. And when it comes to the funding of the university, which is a primary focus and a primary concern, especially at this particular time when it comes to budget cuts, I did attend the meeting for the budget, and I did address some of the issues in terms of asking where we could save money and asking what programs were important to Memorial. In saying that, I think that there needs to be pressure applied to the administration to be able to do the job that they were hired to do and to be able to negotiate effectively a financial capacity that the university can actually work with. So my experience in terms of advocacy and activism in the past, when it comes to various other I would say campaigns and issues around community. One of the best things that we can do moving forward is having a collective, and I would be supporting an initiative that shows and represents the students' voice as opposed to my own thoughts and ideas. And it's really important then to get out and speak to students and see how it is that they want to be able to support how fees look in the future, what the message is back to government, what the message is back to the administration, what can we do at the faculty level, at the building level. There's some talk happening at the, about budgeting, but I don't think that there's enough student voice attending the budget meetings. And I know that it's a central focus for a lot of students who come here about, their accessibility and their cost of education. And I think that pressure put the administration to once again do the work that they were hired to do. They're certainly paid to do that. And then also the ability for the executive director of campaigns to lobby government is very important.
I do apologize. I've been sick for like 2 weeks. So in my opinion, the government is slashing funds to Memorial because Memorial is not allocating those proper resources to where they need to be stated. There is a large waste of money going on in regards to, like for example, they've increased all the fees and they inputted the campus renewal fees, but it is hard to say looking at the campus where all of that money is going. I would like to see some results to where my money is being spent, to be honest. In regards to increasing quality and accessibility on campus, I do believe that allocating the proper resources to the needs of the students is what needs to be done. There are a lot of accessibility issues on campus that have not been being addressed with because it's not in the budget, but I would like to see where the budget is actually going in regards to that, as obviously accessibility is the main reason why we come here. It's here for us, and if we cannot access those things, it will hinder our decision to actually come here, as opposed to a campus that is more qualified to deal with the issues that are arisen by the students. Through my campaign, I do want to better advocate for the rights that we do deserve more funding. We do some amazing things here. We do have our lowest tuition rates possible, and it's made possible because we do get that funding. And as it's increased, more students will decide to go somewhere else, because if they have to spend more money to come here, why wouldn't they just spend more money to go to a larger university, in their opinion? And we do want to advocate that students want to come here. Thank you.
What's one asset that you believe MUNSU has, and how would you leverage it? And what's one shortcoming that MUNSU has, and what are you going to do to address that?
So I think one big asset for MUNSU is that we are 13,000 strong, and we do have the capability to get us all together to work and actually bring about real change. The problem, however, is that we have done very poorly in actually engaging with our students and actually getting them to care about MUNSU and to care about the issues that we are facing. And I understand that there are lots of issues that are going on in our daily lives, but apathy hurts a lot more people than it does help. And so I think that, by creating a diverse board, by having people who actually care, by having people who are passionate about, activism, about, union work, whatever you want to call it, that is how we can solve this issue, and that's how we can actually move forward in a much more productive and better way and actually bring about real change that helps every single one of us. And thank you for that question. I hope I answered properly.
You identified as the membership, and the shortcoming was lack of diversity on the board, I believe.
Well, it's not necessarily lack of diversity. It's that we don't have, that's not what I think the shortcoming is. The shortcoming is that we haven't been able to actually harness the power of those students, that we haven't been able to actually get them to care and to go out and, come together and be a force.
So I think there's a number of, or I had a couple points of things that I think we could work on better with our Students' Union. I think one thing is, some of you might know, we have 38 directors on our board of directors. So that is the largest board in all of Canada. So I think there are a lot of ways we could better utilize the membership on our board to help reach more students on campus, more constituencies on campus, more faculty groups on campus, and reaching out so more students know about what is going on campus. And with that being said, I think a big part of that is promotion. I think we have some really amazing services, whether that be the Breezeway, the Attic, CHMR, and the Student Volunteer Bureau, along with many others. Those are services that students can really benefit from, and I think that there's a lot of ways we could better promote those through our social medias, through more outreach, tabling, through getting those board members to go out and talk to those students within their constituencies or within their faculties and talk about those services and also the advocacy services we have for students on campus, because I think that those are all really huge things for students. And I think while we have those great services, we need to make sure that we are better promoting them so students know that they're there, know that students, that they can come to their students union for those services, that there are ways that they can use those services. If they do need that advocacy help, that they know where to go and who to go to, and that they're more familiar with who is representing them and who their board of directors is. So I think one of the main things we can improve on is just getting that outreach throughout all of our board of directors, through our membership, to better promote all the assets of the Students' Union.
I will pose a question to Student Life. Improving the experience of our members is a goal of the Office of Director of Student Life, and this is done largely in part by supporting the 200+ clubs, societies, and resource centers of MUNSU. What is your experience with this area of MUNSU, and how would you like to improve it?
Okay, so I did mention this before, but when I talked to a lot of people, they didn't know what was and wasn't a society on campus. They didn't know that there were 200+ clubs and societies here with MUNSU. And so what they asked for was to be given out a package, even though they are available online on the MUNSU website, to give out a package to first and second years every single year, because your first year you're overwhelmed, you're nervous, you're really not looking at it, you're handed so much information. But by second year, you feel more comfortable here and getting that package, knowing what clubs and societies there are, and being able to contact those people in charge of them and joining something that means a lot to you and getting that support here on campus would be fantastic. And I did mention how I wanted to start something for undeclared students, because it's really hard for them to make a connection and lean on supports when they're going from a poli-sci class to a biology class all in the same day. So focusing on something like that would be fantastic and hopefully help out a lot of people who are undeclared and need some extra support.
So over my last 3 years at MUN, I've been involved in various society. I've been the vice president of the MUN United Nations Society for 2 years now. I've also been part of the Black Society at MUN. I was Black Student Association at MUN as well, and I was also MUNSU Black History Month organizer. And I believe that through this position, I've gained the experience to be able to bring a way to inform more people about MUNSU and promote more, in a sense that people, when people do come to MUN, they don't know what clubs and positions are here. I have gone during my campaign, I've gone around and spoken to some people, and they've been like, "Oh, I don't know, this is going on," and it's just, I believe it's the lack of promotion, and in my other experience, I've been lucky enough to promote different events like MUN Squared, which has attracted over 200 high schoolers in St. John. So I think if we can take that what I've learned there for this position, we should be able to promote it well. Thank you.
Budgets are a reflection of the priorities of any organization. How will you ensure the MUNSU budget reflects the priorities of our members?
That's a good question. How does the union reflect the wishes of the student population in our budget? That's well, the first thing and the biggest thing I think that the union needs to do for the budget to reflect the interests of the students is to make sure that students communicate with the union. That people, if you look at these pictures here, see how many people are at the events that the union held. We don't have that today. We don't have the participation of our campus. Voter turnout's usually below 10%. The budget is the budget. Yes, it should absolutely be reflecting what the students want. But before we can figure out what students want, the students need to participate and talk to the union. So, as you know, obviously, there's various specific ways in which we can go out and ask people, what do you want to see? We'll obviously look at the previous year's budget and see where did we spend money, where was it most effective, where did we not spend enough money, Where could we spend less money because the money we're spending is not doing anything particularly effective? So we have to do that. But the most important thing is that we have to have a good relationship with the entire student body. We have to have a good relationship with the faculty, a good relationship with all the people all around campus, such that they will come to us and tell us what do they need, what do they want. And we have to do that if we want our budget to properly reflect what students want.
Thanks again. This actually sounds like an extension of the very first question we received. It's so to continue off of that idea, the preliminary budget's put out by the previous finance exec, and then as the year goes on in September, we will put out a secondary final finance budget. These budgets should be based on how much money is being needed and spent in different areas. To go back towards examples of special project grants and individual merit funds, if we see in a year that it's not being used a lot, preliminary budget could then budget for only $6,000 maybe, because only $3,000 of it were actually called for the previous year. If in the summer and then the fall before the final budget's written up, we see a large spike in need for these grants, the budget can then be rewritten to adjust for this. Things like concerts and other conferences and all areas, including SVB and Breezeway, Attic, all these areas can be adjusted from the time of the preliminary budget received from the executive who's elected coming into office to the point where they write their final budget sometime in the fall semester. That's how you adjust your budgetary needs towards the students. Thank you.
To advocacy. Students seeking advocacy are sometimes at their most vulnerable. How will you communicate and help these members?
Well, I guess in the vulnerability on that, I have training, actually extensive training in crisis training, like for women who have experienced any kind of sexual harassment or abuse. I have training with those who've had disabilities on the mental illness spectrum and that as well. So I find I have enough experience in these fields where I'm able to kind of communicate with them efficiently while also not intimidating them to the extent where they would feel closed off or as the union would not support their actions or any of the stuff they would like to do. I would furthermore like to introduce more policies and more resources devoted towards helping out more at-risk populations for our university, such as the previously mentioned ones. And I feel overall that we could do a lot more for our at-risk populations, such as mental illness is one of the biggest probably, especially in Canada.
In this regard, I'm going to be drawing a lot on my past as a registered nurse before I came back here to study biology, and the sensitivity of the issues and the breadth of the needs of the clientele at the time really extended into almost every aspect of our communities. So true is it that the same things are being experienced and being endured by the population of students here on Memorial Campus in St. John's. We have an insufficient, at present we have an insufficient student space to be able to address a lot of the issues that are being experienced here by students. And so part of my focus is to make sure that we increase not only the physical space, but the mental and interpersonal spaces that we have for students, to develop a culture of increased attention and focus to safety, heightened inclusion, the sensitivity to be able to not only address, but to keep, and not only keep discreet someone's lived experiences, but to be able to focus the outcomes of those experiences to be able to promote only what is needed by individual students. We have a responsibility, MUNSU in total has a responsibility to serve each and every student here at Memorial, and I feel that it's going to only be able to be accomplished by very concerted effort, both to become much more sensitive to the needs of individual students related to both the culture and the relationship to the environment here on campus.
So, while residence here at MUN has, I would guess, roughly 2,000 students, which is a pretty decent chunk of the student population. And often, res issues and housing issues go kind of overlooked from like the student union as a whole, such as, and there's many res issues that come up, say, constantly increasing fees and like quality of food and like things like this that MUNSU doesn't really look into. So what could you bring to the position of student life to kind of more advocate for res students and things?
So one thing would be, although I haven't lived in res yet, I would say one thing is using using the strong voice we have. Make sure that the res issues, the people on res living on res know that they do have res representation on MUNSU. We should make sure they know who their res representation is, so they can take these issues and present it to who the res rep is to bring to the board meeting. So if we can make that a process, make sure that the students living on res can be free. And maybe not even just the res, not even just the res rep, but to any member of the MUNSU exec board. If we can put ourselves out there, not just myself, but whoever is whoever's gonna be on the board, put themselves out there to be able to associate with the res. And one thing we can also do is have like an open house for res students. Maybe every semester, be like, you come in here, you present the issue to the board of directors. So those are the different ideas I think we can implement to that.
Great question. I actually lived in res for 3 years before I moved out because, like you said, there are a lot of issues with the increases in fees there. And the food is probably the worst aspect, would you say? It is great not having to wash dishes yourself, though. But when I lived there, I actually would go to the head of dining hall and demand change because they were serving like only pork and ham at the sandwich station, and it's like some people can't eat that. That's not okay. And then, not that a veggie diet's bad, but some people don't want an entirely veggie sub every single day. So one of the things I would do is I would bridge that gap. I've seen the issues, and I would bring those issues right to MUNSU itself if I got elected. And I also want to change it so that way resident students are not treated like children, they're treated like adults and more as a part of the Tenancies Act rather than what minimal rights that they do have based on the rights that housing gives them, which isn't fair. So, thank you.
With no more questions from our members, I will start our closing statements from our candidates.
I think the biggest question for campaigns is really what campaigns am I able to promote today based on the limited amount of information that I have from students. Not having been in the position, but definitely been around the university in various capacities, on different community events, on different boards, on, I shouldn't say boards, sorry, committees. Definitely my ears to the ground listening to what students want. So some of the things that I can speak to today, for example, is the cost of food on campus. No matter who you are, I think the cost of food on campus is an issue that really needs to be looked at. Parking issues need to be looked at. And I'm talking to our international students today. I'm curious about Al Hawkins and the government, and to be able to talk to him about how to keep international students in the province and how that supports us growing our economy and our community once people are ready to leave Memorial University. I'm interested in positive space campaigns, whether that's drag bingo or safe sex workshops. I'm also interested in indigenizing campus, whether we are doing various things with various languages, if it's elders, wall of appreciation, powwows on campus, off-campus based education, and certainly supporting the Aboriginal House. The Blunden needs some support and universal design for our students who have accessibility issues, but also who are challenging ableism every day. And that may look like approaching the bookstore for textbooks that are more audio-based or having more options for audio-based textbooks. Discrimination towards the Dean's List if you're somebody who has an accommodation for a reduced course load that makes you not able to be on the Dean's List, and I think that that's a problem. Survivor support training for faculty and staff. is another really important issue that I think is central to our campus. But primarily, this work can't be done without being accessible. And so if you're not able to be out in various places of campus, and I don't mean for an hour or for a day, I mean, probably canvassing places for a week so that students have accessibility to you, you go to them. I'm coming to you as your Executive Director of Campaigns.
Thanks very much. A Director of Advocacy is responsible to not only hear the message of the students that come to them, but to actively seek them out and to anticipate risk and to be able to engage with policy, to be able to build safer spaces and safer experiences on campus. My intention, of course, is that one of the reasons why this is so important is for a Director of Advocacy to be able to inform students of their rights well in advance of their having the need to exercise them. And we have not seen that as being a push here on campus, and I think it's going to be one way to strengthen our student body as a whole. I also want to increase the presence of constituency, academic faculty, and executive board members with the population of students here on campus. And so we're going to see all representatives actually being from and within the student body that they represent. I want to increase the safety and empowerment of international students, the racialized students, women, femmes, trans students. I want to be able to hear voices of people who have not had a chance to speak. I want to be able to see representation be meaningful and powerful and actually bear outcomes from the energies that are exerted on people's behalf. I do not want to have people go through their academic careers either suffering or having their success and achievements stifled by the nature of the system that supports one group over another. Lastly, of course, let's make sure that advocacy can remain accessible and supportive of students in their careers. Thanks very much.
So, as Executive Director of Student Life, one thing I really want to do is bridge the gap between local students and international students as well. Not just between the different, like we have the health sciences over there, we have the med students, we have the Center of Nursing Studies, and we have res kids. Everything feels as if it's just apart. If we can breach this gap through planning of various social events, which would engage people to meet each other, and through the right promotion of this social event, then I believe I'll be able to achieve this as well. And I also want to work on help easing the life of international students, because moving from moving to 2 year is a rigorous process. You have to get a lot of different, like your SIN number, your MCP, and a bank. If we can find a way to ease that for new students coming to St. John's, we can make a program for that. That would be really helpful as well. And I hope you vote on March 13 and 14. Keep the dream alive.
In closing, I pretty much just want to say to all who've listened to me and all who's watched me through the Facebook stream, I think you guys can tell I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the budget. I've been on every finance committee meeting. I've been on every funding committee meeting there's been since the time we took office back in June was the very first set of meetings we had. I've been one of the largest pushers to axe programs that were unused that used to sink a lot of money, like WalkSafe was a program used by 4 people in the year prior to its cutting and was still costing around $20,000. These redundancies can be cut out pretty easily. Becoming an executive for finances gives me the ability to reduce this excess expenditure more and to move this money from, say, a program used for 4 people for an entire year towards things like campaigns, towards things like the SVB, where students directly benefit in the hundreds instead of the 4s or 10s. I'm Keegan Brophy. I'm running for Executive of Finance. Thank you.
Perfect. So in closing, I wanted to mention that over the past year, being on the executive for the Students' Union, I've always tried to have the best values of the Students' Union at heart, and working with students to make things that they want to see happen with the Students' Union happen. And I've been very passionate about that work. I'm sure lots of you have seen me. I've been at every single event we've ever had and been to everything, and trying to be a part of all of that and be a part of all the 200 plus student groups I've gotten to work with. Three main things that I want to work at if elected is updating our policy. So as I mentioned, a lot of our policies are outdated and don't address current issues of students and the stances of our membership. And I want students to be included into addressing those changes to the policies to make sure that they feel that they are represented in those policies, as well as making the policies inclusive and accessible, which also means, as I mentioned before, updating the pronouns so it shows who is represented and students feel like they are represented through our different policies and what they stand for, as well as making sure students are included and having a say in what they would like to see our stances and our policies reflect for our student body. Another thing I would like to do is better promoting our services and have better communication. So that's through our services, our advocacy services, our campaigns, better promoting our events on campus, and the opportunities for students, whether that be opportunities to be a part of the board, so next elections, to have better turnout for those elections, people running, job opportunities on campus, volunteer opportunities on campus, and the opportunities they have within our services, and as well research. So I know a number of members from other students' unions across the country, and I would like to talk to them about what they do to better have better outreach with their students on their campus, and utilize the people power of their board, and as well as getting feedback through polling students on campus so they feel like they have their input on what it is that their students' union is doing, and just overall to keep the value of our students in whether that be in the media, in the university committees and MUNSU committees that I would sit on, and overall to the student body that those are reflected. Thanks.
Hi. So what I want to do next year is mobilize the students. Let's have an open discussion, get your input, have your interests met, increase your rights in residence, and everywhere else. I want to be more inclusive and less isolated, have more events that more people can be involved in and more people feel comfortable in. And let's have weekly tournaments at the Breezeway, similar to how they have trivia and open mic. Let's have pong and pool and darts tournaments. And yeah, so my name's Kayla McKinnon, and I am running for Student Life.
I feel a little bit jittery after sitting down for so long. Well, there's an awful lot I'd love to talk to everyone about. There's so many ideas that I've heard and ideas I've come up with that I think the union could use over the next year. For example, so many of our policies, for example, the elections policy is 10 years old. I know social media did exist then, but it's become a lot more important since then, and there's not really anything to address that in the policy book. And there's all kinds of things like that I think could use a lot of work. Studying political science, it's something that I'm a bit of a nerd about, is policy, and I've done all these Newfoundland youth parliaments, Model UN for a long time, so it's something I'd really love to be able to help with. But when it comes to finance and services, there's so many things that this union can do. There's so many things it can do better. There's so many things it can do. We have the Breezeway. It's an awesome place. It can be better. We have the attic that provides services to students all the time. There's so many good ideas, and I just want to say to everyone here and to anyone watching, please come talk to me. Tell me what you want. I think that's what we really need to do, is just to communicate, to talk to each other. Tell us what you want. Tell us what should happen. That's the philosophy I want to bring to the MUNSU board. And my name is Liam O'Neill. If you need to know that to vote for me, I suppose. Please vote. Please tell your friends to vote. We need more than 10% of people to participate. Please, and thank you.
Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and for giving all of us the opportunity to come here and just really talk to all of you. So, as everyone knows, I'm running on 4 basic main pillars, which is accountability. I think that it's really important that while we're doing our work, we also check ourselves and we make sure that we're staying focused on task and we're doing the best job that we are doing. I know a lot of students are actually upset with MUNSU for everything that's happened the past year, and I want to change that. The second pillar is creation of meaningful policy. So there are policies in our manuals that do not exist, that need to be changed, that need to be updated, that need to be revamped, and I want to work with the students and make sure that students know that they can come to us, they can tell us about their ideas, so that we can have as many minds that are actually that really care about this working and creating these and fixing this together. The third one is transparency. So a good idea that I think would be being able to translate all of our, our policies and our bylaws into as many languages as possible. I think, French is really important since we are a bilingual country, but we also do have students from all across the world, students from many indigenous groups that they would like to see their policies translated into their languages. And third is engagement with the student body. A lot of students are upset with us. A lot of students don't care about MUNSU. The main question I was asked the entire year was, what exactly does MUNSU do? And that needs to change. Students need to know what we do, that we are there for them, that we are brought to you by you, and that you can come to us about anything, that you can come to us, and that we can work together and, help just make our community, just make us better, okay? That's what really matters. And so all of my high school career until now, I've been working with many student groups. The past 2 years, I've been volunteering with MUNSAGA or Intersections. I have a very diverse background, and I want to bring that forward and just use my knowledge and the knowledge of the student body to, bring some change. If you like what I said, you think I'm a perfect match for you, swipe right at the voting booth.
So to sum up everything that I tried to convey through this meeting, I'm running for the position because simply I feel more can be done to not only engage more with the student body, but to better serve it. Through planning my own events on campus, I believe more work can be done with clubs and societies to make events more diverse and interesting. There's still so much we can do to promote events more to the public, and more can be done to make people feel comfortable about coming to these events. I will never stop believing that the student body deserves better. On top of improving inclusivity, I want to work hard to implement the policies and procedures we need for our campus and to improve on the ones that are already in place. Outdated policies are an obstacle to progress, and I plan to not let that stand in our way anymore. Ultimately, I have one large goal: bettering the community we call our university. I hope I get the chance to see if this view is correct so that we may have a more welcoming and inclusive campus. On March 13th and 14th, I hope you take the time to vote for someone who stands by this. Vote Allison for campaigns. With you, for you. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Weston Lushman. I'm running for the Executive Director of Campaigns with MUNSU. If elected, I can promise you a great variety of changes and campaigns that the students want to see, from changes with our sexual harassment policy to what the students really want to see on campus to make them feel more comfortable. I hope you all vote on March 13th and 14th, and have a great day.
Thank you to our executive candidates for answering questions today. Thank you all for coming out today, and thank you to anybody who tuned into our live feed. Just a reminder that voting is taking place on March 13th and 14th, and you can learn more and vote through munsu.ca/elections. Have a great day.